Today we're going to talk about putting new pond liner over old pond liner and what should you do with your grass before you build a pond or a water garden. The first question today comes from a Daniel Plummer. He sent it to me over an email, and he says he found some huge tears in his liner, and he's ready to fix the pond, and he wants to put a new pond liner over the old pond liner and just go, because he thinks he's going to have some more strength. And I'm going to recommend that you do not do that. A lot of people think this. A lot of people think that's like an extra layer of protection or padding. But to be quite honest with you, it's actually could backfire on you a little bit, depending on where the tear is in the liner. If you cut holes in the bottom of the very bottom of the pond and cut the bottom out so you wouldn't get any water between the two liners. That's the most important thing. Because if the tear is up, let's say the pond's 4 foot deep, the tear is at 2 foot deep, you still have that lower 2 foot that you can get water between the two liners. And what happens is you get hydrostatic pressure, it builds up between the two, and literally the upper liner can bubble up. Even if you put rock or gravel or weight on top of the upper liner, that liner can bubble up and actually breach the top of the liner, and it'll look like a whale breaching the top and coming down because that big black liner will be coming up across the top. So typically what I like to do is if I'm dealing with an old pond, I always want to do something different. I always want to, enhance it a little bit, maybe carve the shelves a little bit different. I know it's an extra work, but I want you to pull that old liner out, pull the old fabric out, and you'll find that an old pond, if you've excavated some shelves in there, you'll find that the shelves have kind of like started to contour a little bit and they're not perfect anymore. Take a little extra time and do some extra work. Maybe dig the shelves out a little bit different. But the most important thing is if you want to just rip the liner out, drop in a new one and go to save time, then I would recommend that you could do that. Or at least cut a big hole in the bottom of the liner so you don't get that pressure built up between it. It's really important, okay? So thanks for asking that question, Daniel. The next question comes from one of our YouTube subscribers. Thank you very much. It's a Connor Sijelski. I hope I said that correctly. And he wants to know, do you kill the grass before you build a pond or a water garden? And this is a great question because we do a lot of yards where they want to pull out the grass and put in a pond in its place, because actually putting in a pond is using less water than the same area of sod, believe it or not. So the tricky thing is, I know a lot of people dig out that grass, and it costs money to haul it off, or it's heavy to put in your trash cans. But a lot of times they'll take the grass and they'll create a big pile over in the corner, and then they'll throw dirt on top of that, and then they'll throw their waterfall on top of that. And what happens is if you do that, you have this big mound of grass or sod or seed or whatever you have, and it starts to decompose and it compresses and it shrinks. And so what happens is if you have a 4 foot mound over in a corner and 2 foot of it is grass, you might lose, it could sink, 8 to 12 inches. It could sink down that much because as it decomposes and falls apart, it starts to lessen. So if you sink like that, it's a bad move. I typically like to remove the sod and haul it off the project if all possible, or if it's a property where we can, we might do a berm over here where it's just a landscaping berm where we put a lot of plants in it, and if it sank 3-4 inches, it'd be no problem. And if I do that, what I'll do is I'll take that sod, I'll flip it upside down, and I'll create a little area, and then we'll put dirt on top of that. And then the grass typically doesn't grow back up through that berm, but it will eventually start to grow up through there, and then they're gonna have to spot treat it with Roundup, or pull the weeds or whatever they're gonna have to do. But you wanna, if you're gonna do that on the side, flip it upside down, but just know that it's gonna sink a little bit over time, so you don't want it around your pond. And what I don't like to do is build the pond and have the grass coming up real close. If I can pull the grass back a little bit, because oftentimes they're gonna start cutting the grass, using the weed eater or whatever they're doing, and the grass clippings are going to go into the pond, and then if they get caught around the water lilies, and it's going to just cause a problem for the pond as well. So we want to get rid of the grass. It's not just killing it, it's physically removing it. If you have one of those really deep grasses, it might be a good idea to kill the grass off first and then remove it, but we want to get it out of there so it doesn't have a sink on you. It doesn't sink on you. So I think that was a great question, and I appreciate that very much. If you have some more questions you want to ask, you want us to answer on the show, you know how to do it. #AskThePondDigger. Put it on social media platforms. We'll do our very best to answer on the show. We appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.